From KPFK in Los Angeles, California, Valley Free Radio in Florence, Massachusetts, WNUC in Detroit, and BikeTalk.org worldwide, this is Bike Talk.
Bike Talk.
Welcome to Bike Talk. I'm Taylor Nichols.
And I'm Nick Richard.
Hey, Nick.
Hey.
You know, last week we had Jim Cadenhead on the show talking about lights, and I have been doing a fair amount of morning riding this week, and it's dark in the morning. It makes me think that I want to get one of those Dynamo hubs. You said you have one on your Brompton?
Yeah, it's great. You never have to worry about it.
Do Bromptons, all of them come with a Dynamo hub? I didn't know that.
No, I bought this one used from a bike shop mechanic who we all knew in LA, Joe Braley, who had installed it.
Oh, that's great. So you got to build a whole wheel. I guess we got to figure out how to do that. Maybe Jim can talk me through that, or I just go to a place. But I really like the idea of being able to charge my phone if I need it, or having the lights. And you were even talking just a second ago about when you were at Jim's shop in Massachusetts. What's it called again?
Battle Road Bikes.
That you bought a compressor? Tell me what that is.
The first time I saw one was in June when I went on that 4-day bike packing ride. When someone got a flat, someone pulled out this little cube that had been recharged. It's like a little compressor. It's, that pumps up the, compressor is the thing, right?
Sure, yeah.
But it's handheld, and you just charge it up, and it pumps up your tire.
And it's USB charged? That's how you charge it?
It's USB, yeah.
And it's Presta and Schrader, or what?
Yeah, it's got an adapter.
Wow. And is it heavy?
No, it's tiny. It's kind of amazing.
Because I got to tell you, I think, you and I are both old enough that we remember when people just had a pump on their bike all the time.
Right.
But now everybody uses, me included, CO2 cartridges. And that just seems like a huge waste to me.
Yeah. I mean, who knows what's going into this device, whether they're scraping the seafloor for rare minerals.
I doubt it, but I don't know. You showed me that video earlier, Nick, of the cyclist being chased by ice.
Isn't that crazy?
It's scary, I think.
There's a video online. It's been on for a while. This guy in Chicago, I guess he said F Trump to a bunch of ICE, I don't want to call them officers, hooligans.
No. Yeah, right.
Goons, just, I guess, hanging out. And they chased him. But he was off his bike, and he was running alongside his bike, pushing it, staying ahead of these, what do you call them? Thugs?
Jackbooters, is that what they are?
Yeah. And he kept ahead of them, and he was like just a couple feet ahead, and he was running his bike, and finally he jumped on it and got away, and there were 8 of them.
Took off.
Yeah.
Well, a couple of the ICE agents totally missed a tackle. I mean, the coach would be really upset, I think, when they watched the game video on that one.
Yeah. There was that great South Park episode about ICE that I get all my facts about them from.
I'm not a South Park watcher.
Oh, you didn't see this season's episodes yet?
No.
All right.
I know my kids love it. They laugh and laugh and laugh. And I just don't watch it. I don't know.
You need to see this season. Okay, you have a treat in store.
Okay.
Other online news was that a friend of the show, Our Streets Minneapolis board member Laura Mitchell, posted that she was on a 10-mile ride and there was a roller skater who kept up with the ride the entire time. Have you ever seen that? Somebody on roller skates?
Doing the whole 10 miles, keeping up with bikes. That's a hell of a workout.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen a rollerblader do that, but I feel like, I don't know, the 4 wheels, they must be good wheels.
Yeah, but even on rollerblades, that's a workout, man. Charlie has some news for us. Let's play Charlie real quick, eh?
Yeah.
Hey, it's Charlie here with the week's news. Ever heard of traffic jams for cars? Well, what about bike jams? As reported by CTV News, Montreal's increase in use of bike lanes has caused some bike jams. During rush hour now, you can see lines of 20 or 30 riders, and last year, the bike lane on Saint Denis had over 1.6 million users. CBC News also put out a good video on YouTube about bike lanes in Montreal and the facts surrounding safety, usage, parking, and effects on business. They also talk about how each party involved in the November elections sees bike lanes and what they'll do to them. A guy by the name of Colin Miller created a game for Windows and Mac that allows users to create their own subway lines from scratch. You're given $3 billion to start with, and you have to use different building and mapping methods to create a subway system that efficiently transports people in your city. The game costs $30 on subwaybuilder.com, and you can build your own subway system in 26 different American cities. Friends of the show, Melissa and Chris Bruntlett, just came out with a book on October 1st called Women Changing Cities. From their website, the authors, quote, highlight the groundbreaking work of female mayors, planners, advocates, and policymakers in reshaping urban spaces for the better, end quote. The book even includes an interview with Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo. You can read about the book and where to buy it at their website, modacitylife.com. That's MODA citylife.com. Hollywood Boulevard just got a new bike lane sweeper that's battery-powered and towed by a bike. Barry Lank of Eastsider LA writes that the sweeper will cover 2 miles of bike lanes in either direction on Hollywood Boulevard twice a month, as opposed to the city sweeper that can come by only once every 3 months or so. They had a naming ceremony for it on October 11th, where it was officially named Sweeping Beauty.
So that was Charlie Lighthizer with our update in news, and I'm really glad that he covered the street sweeper. It's going to sweep bike lanes in Hollywood, and believe me, I ride on that bike lane a lot, and it needs to be cleaned. Charlie also talked a little bit about Melissa Bruntlett's new book, but she has another book that is out that is available on our bookshop site at biketalk.org, which is called Curbing Traffic. And Diane Alisa, the author of A Love Letter to Suburbia, interviews Melissa about creating a space so that kids can roam on their bikes.
We have Melissa Bruntlett here from Canada, and she's living in Delft, Netherlands.
That's
and we're going
correct.
to talk about her book, Curbing Traffic. When did you write that book?
Over the course of the pandemic in 2020 and then released in 2021, and is essentially sort of a recap of our first year having moved from Vancouver, Canada to Delft, Netherlands. Myself, my husband, Chris, and our 2 kids, Leo and Etienne, and how different our life was in terms of how we felt. And then looking at the story of Delft and the Netherlands in terms of how that was contributing to the increases in well-being that we were experiencing in that first 12 to 18 months.
Walkability is so connected to quality of life. And my whole movement in Restoring the American Village is about families. And I was amazed that that was your first chapter. You're talking about children and how children need walkability.
We lived in a really walkable community in Vancouver, and so that was really our foundation for raising our kids. When we first moved to Vancouver, our eldest was 1 year, and then we had our second while we were there. And so living in East Vancouver, walking them to daycare, walking them to school, we saw this value in terms of the connection they felt to their community. They would talk about the nature that we were walking past, or, hey, remember 2 weeks ago we bumped into this person while we were cycling here, or that connectivity to their community and their environment that, of course, I had growing up in the 80s. I will age myself. But, many of their peers weren't having. A lot of their friends were driven to school and to after school activities, and they didn't have that same connection to the place where they lived, and also missing out on even that 15 minutes of physical activity in the start and end of their day. It's these nice little things that we've taken for granted over the course of the last 30, 40 years. But we really felt it was important to give back to our kids.
I was talking to somebody today. I was talking about children and how they have a really hard time making social connections in suburban America or any car-dependent place. And they were like, why didn't you just call me? Why don't you just go out of your way and I'll connect with you? And I'm like, there's no organic connection in car-dependent places. There's too much effort for kids to make social connections and know different types of peer groups. We have this saying, touch grass. You got to get to reality. One of the quotes he said is that virtually all risk is removed from day-to-day lives for children. And that line hit me pretty hard. And I'm just wondering what you feel happens to the development of children when they never get to take those small risks in their communities.
We talk about it in that chapter in terms of this sort of bubble wrap or teacup generation that has developed, who are now adults, and they enter into post-secondary school or enter into the workforce, and they're thrust into independence and they don't know what to do. They look to their parents or older peers to say, okay, well, how do I get to this next step? And how do I do this? And they haven't had those critical moments in their upbringing to be able to make that decision for themselves. We remove a lot of risk from kids because we think it's for their own safety. We want to make sure that, they're not put in unnecessarily unsafe situations. And certainly there have been advancements in innovation in terms of how we can make kids' lives safer physically. But in doing so, we take away too much of the ability to make mistakes. And I was recently giving a presentation to a corporate group that focuses a lot more on automotive development in Europe. And I made this point that, in the book, we talk about our son. And they're like, well, what can we do, to make sure that us that are focused on this side of transportation, how do we also support micromobility and why is that important? And I said, well, if you think about it from my son's perspective, within 2 weeks, a month or so of moving to the Netherlands, he was cycling home from school, he lost concentration and he fell and he broke his arm. In almost any other place in North America, if that had happened, he would have been on the road and it might have meant he didn't come home that day.
Yeah.
But because the system was designed in a way that he was fully removed from traffic, although he had this really unsafe experience and he hurt himself, he still came home that day. So he had this valuable teachable moment where like, okay, I have to focus when I'm cycling. I can't like stare off into the sky or do whatever because I might lose my balance and fall. We like to think that that message came through, that he knows how to behave next time around. But the very fact that he had that opportunity to learn is valuable for him, while not running that risk for us as parents that he didn't come home that day. When I'm talking about walkability or cyclability for kids, it's about ensuring that how we're designing the space, kids still have that right to come home, but we're allowing them to have those learning opportunities where they don't need to be in the backseat of a car, or they don't need to be chaperoned by an adult, whether that's a parent or a caregiver, for every step of the way, so they can have those teachable moments without pushing that too far.
Yeah, I think the stakes are just way too high if they're traveling by themselves. Like I was just going to a park with my son. He's 2, and I didn't have eyes on him for probably about 5 seconds while I was getting onto my bike, and he had just gone a little bit before me and he had gone the wrong direction. He had gone straight for the road. And it was so scary because he almost got hit by a car. And the only reason why he didn't was because I screamed at him to turn around, and thankfully he heard me, and then a car is going 40 miles an hour right past him. And this is what car dependence does. It's just very scary. And so something that I really loved about your book was the idea that you have these micro transportation options, walkability, where the cars are more likely to be on the outskirts of places so that the insides of these cities are safe to walk in and to actually make a choice.
That's the beauty of the way Dutch cities have been designed in terms of transportation. And it's one of the things that when I go to other cities, whether that's in Europe, North America, or otherwise, I try to really emphasize that this traffic circulation model that they use throughout the Netherlands is very much focused on pushing cars out of neighborhoods, sending them to the arterial roads where they can go faster and they're much more direct and they get them to where they want to go. And make it so that in the neighborhood, those are people that live there or are visiting. They're not going through anymore. They're coming in to stay. And then that together with good design of narrowing streets, putting in traffic calming, widening footpaths, and critically slowing speeds. So it's like in no neighborhood in the Netherlands is traffic over 30 kilometers an hour, which is I think about just under 20 miles per hour. That makes it inherently safer because we know from countless studies that a car moving at 30 kilometers an hour in a collision with someone on a bike or on foot, it's more likely that person will walk away from that with an injury probably, but nothing severe. But as soon as you increase over that speed, it basically spikes and suddenly, you lose that potential to survive a crash like that. And the whole approach is to make driving uncomfortable in neighborhoods so people want to get out as fast as possible, and that creates neighborhoods where walkability is possible, where you see kids between 7-8 years old starting to walk to school by themselves, and parents are okay with that because they're comfortable knowing that the system has been designed to ensure their safety. Because your reaction, that fear that you had, it doesn't come from nowhere.
It's incredibly stressful.
Yeah,
exactly. And I had people blaming me like you should have had your eyes on your kid. It's like, well, I shouldn't have to have my eyes on my kid at every second of the day. We should be building safe environments for them.
We make mistakes as adults, kids make mistakes, kids get distracted. Anyone who is a parent
Yeah.
should know that you can, even with the tightest grip on your child's hand, something will happen, and that's the curiosity of children. And it's our responsibility as those designing the cities around them to think, what is that child's experience and how do I make sure that what I'm doing will have a positive impact on them, as opposed to putting all the burden on their caregiver to make sure that they're safe.
Yeah, I actually kind of believe that it makes children, in America particularly, because we're so car-brained, it oppresses them as a class. We don't consider them moving around, which was something that I really thought was poignant, where you said when they're planning a city, the first question that they should be asking is, can children walk to school? Can children pick up eggs from the grocery store? Can children go to their friends' houses? Because children are the baseline of design. Their vulnerabilities make it beneficial for everybody to travel places when we think about them first. In America, we have this car brain mentality where we think that having a car automatically makes you freer. And it's because everything is designed for the vehicle, not for you. And it really is about who gets the priority getting to a place. And right now, it's the car. But it could be the bike. And I think this is just kind of like mind-blowing to people that it's literally designed for them to not be able to get to places quickly by walking.
Well, and that's exactly it. I mean, in a few of our slides that Kristen and I have done over the years, there's one that always says the best bike plan is a car plan. Okay, you create this car plan, but that car plan should be exactly what you're talking about making driving inconvenient for the short trips. Because we all, especially in North America, we live in these cities where there are trips that are just not possible to do by bike. It would be great if they all were. Yeah. That's the ideal I think we'd all like to work towards. But by thinking about, okay, where do cars need to be? They need to be moving fast and longer distances. Let's move them out. And then let's make walking and cycling more convenient. As soon as you do that, you start to see that shift. You start to see more people saying, this would be way faster if I just walked there instead of got in my car. And they might do that. Exactly. And then, it shouldn't be more convenient to drive kids to school. It should be more convenient to let them walk.
Exactly.
For the safety perspective, but also for that social connection of meeting up with peers and bumping into friends or getting to the community center. A lot of people, 40 plus, wax nostalgic about, remember when we used to all call on our friends? Why don't kids do that anymore? Well, we've designed that out. Exactly. We need to bring that back.
It's part of the design, this very oppressive design on children and mothers in particular. They take the brunt of responsibility for chauffeuring and getting their kids' social lives, and it's all falling on basically one single person. And that's really, really hard for both of them. They're spending almost too much time together in frivolous ways where they could be walking to places independently and growing all of that resilience as they grow up. My book is all about villages, that children kind of belong to the community themselves. It shouldn't just fall on one single family. And I kind of connect that by having a multi-generational culture where families can start building homes together and much closer to each other, kind of raising density that way. Do you feel like the Netherlands has succeeded in that, or do they have more work in that realm?
Obviously, the country being quite small and dense lends itself well to that. The first house that we lived in when we moved to Delft was across the street from a gentleman named Peter, who we talk about actually in another chapter in the book around aging in place, essentially. He was a teacher for years in Delft and then was still a caretaker at our son's school, which we only found out, I think, a few months after we had moved to the neighborhood. But him being on that street and also cycling around while our kids are cycling around, while families that he taught are cycling around or walking around, meant that you had this, exactly what you're talking about, this village where he's still so connected to the community, even though he's not teaching anymore. He does tutoring for students. He's connected with the parents and the children in terms of still having that intergenerational contact. We see him on the street and we say, hi, this is a gentleman we wouldn't know otherwise had we lived in any other context.
Right.
It's because of that village mindset of our neighborhoods are our communities, and we want to know who lives next door to us. We want to say hello. I think later on in my teen life, I was sort of in that sort of more sprawled suburban reality where I didn't know who our neighbors were. It's a total flip of that, where even if you just know them by glance, who lives next to you, who lives in the duplex, above.
It's
we know,
passive interaction.
yeah.
Yeah.
And our neighbors now, we've moved into a new place. They're like in their 80s, but they know our kids' names and they say hi. There's a shop down the way that has recognized our daughter for years. And so he makes her sit down and have a chat with her, not in like a very oppressive way, more of like a, hey, how's it going? I
Yeah.
don't want it to
That's so
sound
good.
bad, but it's just like creating that connection. So, as our kids have grown up, they now have people that recognize them and are looking out for them as well, even if it's just to say hi. And they'll notice if something is off or, these little things. It shouldn't just be a village mentality of, live in a small place that exists. We should foster that in neighborhoods and big cities as well, not just in terms of knowing who your neighbor is, but really building that conviviality and that intergenerational connection that I think makes cities better for everybody.
I really feel like it's accomplished through design. All of those micro interactions can grow into really intimate connections, and maybe they don't, and that's a good thing too. We should have a lot of propinquity with each other, and I think that anybody who is really pro car dependent is actually anti-family and anti-children, because our children need to be able to travel by themselves.
Yeah.
They need to be able to grow in a world where they are bumping shoulders with other kids and going places that are productive. So thank you so much for that beautiful chapter on children and walkability.
My pleasure. The reason we started with the child-friendly city in that book was because it's where we all start. And whenever you have conversations about transportation, it is so focused on the trip to work or getting in a car or the more economically driven trips. And it's so basic, but people need to be reminded for at least the first 16 years of our lives, we cannot drive. So the car is not an option.
It's not.
And if we're only focused on that, then we're forgetting so much of our population. That's why we started there. And exactly, we need to be thinking about kids first when we're thinking about cities.
Yep, amazing.
Diane is in episodes 2535 through 2537. We had her on a bunch lately, and now she's doing interviews. And next week, the same interview continues, and it's continued by Lucy Maloney, the Vancouver City Council member, bike activist, who's also been on the show. And Lucy talks to Melissa about her new book, Women Changing Cities, which is appropriate.
And I spoke with Chris Bruntlett a couple of weeks ago in episode 2538, a little bit about his new book, Women Changing Cities, but also Curbing Traffic, and also his current trip to China. So the Bruntletts are well recognized on Bike Talk, which is really nice. A husband and wife team.
Power couple.
We've been talking a lot on the show about how to visit foreign cities and countries, and whether you do a bike share or whatever. And Jonathan Weiss, one of our listeners, just did a bike tour up in Portland, Oregon, and brought a report about it. But my brother has really gotten into doing bike tours in Europe, and he and his wife take off and go to the south of France or Italy recently and do a bike trip. And they just got back from Slovenia, of all places, where they did an amazing bike tour with a company called Our Away Bike Tours and Walking Tours. And the leader of Our Away is on the show today, and his name is Nejc Peternelj. Nejc, welcome to Bike Talk.
Well, hello from Slovenia.
Yeah, it's really great to see you and to hear you.
Same goes for you, and it's also really nice to see John and Alice listening live right now.
Yeah, my brother John and his wife Alice are on the call also. John and Alice, tell me really quick how you guys found Nejc, because I never would have found Our Away Tours, and why you picked Slovenia as a place to do a bike trip.
We were pretty lucky because we had not really considered a bike trip in Slovenia before, but two friends that we met on a previous bike trip, this one in Croatia, and they found Nejc by just searching around for someone to assist them with a bike tour. They found Nejc and they found Our Away. He took them on a tour, and they fell in love with bike riding in Slovenia, and then started working right then on putting a bigger trip together with a group of friends. And that's how we found Nejc, through them, who had spent enough time in Ljubljana to really get familiar with what was available there.
Right. It sounds really great. And Nejc, it seems like your organization is not a great big commercial touring company, and that you do pretty specialized tours.
Yeah, well, basically, I'm a skier from when I was 2, and 8 years ago, me and my schoolmate from high school, we basically decided to start something on our own, and that was the biking business. So guiding groups of people on a mountain biking, gravel biking, road biking tours across Slovenia, 1 day, multi-days, up to 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And so far, it's been the focus of always the quality over the quantity, because we believe that you don't get a great experience when there's one guide and 10 or 15 people following. But we just had this idea that if we want to go to some place, any other country, or we go to America, to Colorado, to Utah and ride, we want to ride with a local who knows the trails.
Right.
Still see some interesting and amazing sites that are like must see, must do. The focus is exploring the culture, the history of the country you're going to. And the best way to explore it is going to the local hidden trails. And that's how you get familiar with what the country is all about.
Right. Well, we talk all the time about how the bike is the perfect way to explore, foreign areas. And the pictures that John and Alice sent me of your trip were really amazing. Where in Slovenia are you, and where do you take the tours? And it sounds like it's a mix of biking and walking tours. And I mean, it just looks fantastic. How do you organize it? How many people were on the tour? And answer all those questions. Go.
I mean, I always say Slovenia is small, and people are like, how small? I'm like, well, there's 2 million people, right, living in the whole country. And I think if you look on the map, it's going to be a hard time finding where this little country is. But we are between basically Austria, Italy, Croatia, and Hungary. And to summon the country, how big it is, or how it looks like, people say it's like New Zealand, but way, way smaller. So basically the possibilities are limitless, because one day you can ride in the Alps, in the high Alps. The next day you can ride at the vineyards, at the karst terrain, coastal towns. So literally, like, the landscape, the culture, the history, landscape, everything is changing literally day by day. And when you do biking tours and hiking tours, or you combine those things, you basically do what the terrain allows you to do. So I think you can bike almost everywhere, but when it comes to like the high alpine environment, like high Alps, you cannot go there with the bike, so you need to walk. And for days like that, I take people on a hike, and that way you can explore, the places that you cannot do it with the bike, but you can do it with the hike. Just like, basically, I mean, John and Alice can say that every day you do something, it's not boring, because each day is literally different.
Right.
Our capital city was 5 years in a row selected as the greenest capital of Europe. We also have 64% of the whole area covered in forest, which is the second most foresty country in Europe.
Wow.
So basically, the nature is there. If you have a bike, you go and explore it.
Right. Well, John, you're a little bit older than me, so I think you used an e-bike on this trip, right?
And I was glad I did. Some of the climbs were really amazing. And, I tried to get exercise on the ride by not putting it all the way up in turbo, but I was really glad I had those different power levels. And the roads that Nejc took us on were amazing. They were no traffic, small, narrow roads, some paved, some gravel and rock, and just gorgeous, beautiful, expansive views of the countryside and little villages off to the distance. And then other parts of the road were just totally covered with trees, so we were literally in a tree tunnel.
Wow.
But being able to explore the really steep climbs with the e-bike made it really pleasant.
Yeah.
It allowed us to ride for hours and hours. And I can't do that without a little help if it's uphill for hours.
Right.
It just makes it more fun that, you can How much elevation did we gain in some days?
We were doing 4,000 or 5,000 feet, if I'm correct, Nate. Quite a lot.
Yeah, like we do have the climbs that are pretty challenging, and that's when e-bike comes to play.
Right.
I always say it's not a problem to do any of the tour on the regular bike, but when you come to a point of like, oh, there's an 18% gradient, well, you know how that looks on a regular bike.
Right.
It's pretty tough. And you know, my philosophy: how do you want to explore the country, right? I also got a group from California. We've done road biking. Every day we conquer one of the passes. We've done 7 iconic passes of Slovenia, Austria, and Italy all together in one trip. And for them, the intention was to cycle on a regular road bike and work hard. But that was a different type of travel, right?
Right.
So John and Alice came to Slovenia to explore not just biking, right? But also the culture, some culinary experiences along the way, and just like everything together. Bike was just the tool to explore all that, right? Or the hike, right?
Well, I love how you say that the bike is really just the tool with which to explore the countryside with. And I think that's a great way to put it. Do you also plan the culinary aspects of the tour, the restaurants and things like that? Or is that sort of up to the people on their own? I mean, how full service is Our Away Tours?
I mean, Our Away, our slogan is Your Custom Holidays, which means that I would say most of the tours, 70-80% of the tours that me and my business partner sell are custom. People tell us how long will they be in the country, how they want to explore it, and what their focus is on, right? But I really like to always put the whole trip and the itinerary together, where you get the input. If the tour is guided, you give everything possible for the guests to feel welcome, to enjoy. So from accommodation with breakfast, the bike rental, all the guided trips, all the transportation, some local culinary experiences along the way, from wine tasting, cheese tasting, kind of like garden to table experience, trying the things we have, right? Why Slovenia is special, or why is it different than other countries. The only thing on the trip that we don't, and I never want to include, are dinners, because nowadays, that people are vegan, vegetarian, and some people prefer to go to local restaurants. Some people prefer to go to Michelin star restaurant. Some of them just want to have a regular burger after a long biking day. So these things, I leave them up to the guests. But I always suggest people like, okay, you could go there or go there. Do you want? I can reserve. Also, you need to understand, like, every town you're staying at, it's a small town.
Right.
To put it like in perspective, our capital city, Ljubljana, has 350,000 people, and that's the biggest city. And the second largest city has 90. So, for example, if we're talking about trip that John and Alice, because they're here now and they can confirm, I mean, they were staying in places like, the first place was like a little village where there was maybe 40 houses. So 500 people maybe, or 1,000 people. And then a bit bigger town, like 3,000. So, just trying to see how the country actually is, because half of the country lives in the city and half of the country, the population, lives in the villages. So we are spread out. And if you want to explore the country, you have to explore the countries.
Right. John, it really does sound like it was a custom tour. Were you guys able to then kind of go off when you wanted to at dinner, like Nejc was saying, and find your own place for dinner? And
the first place we stayed for 3 nights, and it was a lodge in the countryside. But as Nate said, there were maybe 40 homes, kind of within a half-mile or mile radius. And the family that ran the lodge had surrounded the lodge with their own gardens. The couple that ran it would prepare meals for us at night.
Oh, wow.
That were all from their own garden.
Right.
Or there was a nearby trout stream, and they caught like 2 dozen trout, and we had fresh trout for dinner.
Wow.
So, and we also went to a restaurant in that town and other restaurants that Nejc recommended. So we kind of had choices there. And sometimes the whole group would go together, and sometimes we'd split up.
Right.
But the opportunity to eat the food that was coming out of the garden right next to the room we were staying in was pretty amazing and really, really good.
The food was a highlight. Also, it was amazing. I mean, the countries was part of Italy, Austria, for hundreds of years, and the food is just unique, spectacular, varied, healthy.
Right.
I didn't eat processed food for 2 weeks.
Yeah. And one of the good things about riding all day is that you really do work up an appetite. Let me ask you really quick, what kind of bikes do you have on the tour? I know they were e-bikes, but what are the bikes?
Well, we use a electric hardtail mountain bikes, so front suspension, air suspension, focus that the parts on the bike are in good quality, because at the end we're spending most of our time on a bike, so the bike has to be in good quality.
Right.
We normally change the bikes each 2 years. The focus is that we have the Bosch motor and the Bosch battery, because it works for what we're doing the best possible way. Also, we have regular gravel bikes, specialized. But, Slovenia is like any other European country. You're going to find all the brands, like I would say Specialized is pretty popular here.
Sure.
Then you have Scott, Cube, Santa Cruz, Colnago, Ghost, Lapierre. There's, just many European and American, Canadian brands.
Right. Slovenia is certainly on the cycling map the last few years because of one guy. Tadej Pogačar is the reigning Tour de France champion and probably the best cyclist in the world. Have you ever seen him on any of your rides, training or riding around? Or
Yeah, Slovenia for the past 4 years, it's just we cannot understand how this is possible. But yeah, we are so far the best in the world because of this guy you mentioned, and also Primož Roglič and some of the others as well. So far we are on the map, and that's why I think it's worth coming before the others are coming.
Yeah,
right?
Totally. Well, let me ask you really quick also, do you need to be an experienced bike rider to do one of the tours, or can you have one person who's really into biking and maybe your partner is not quite as into it and still enjoy it? Maybe you can answer that too, John or Alice. I don't know, both you guys are pretty big bikers, but is it, Nejc, the kind of ride that's comfortable for someone who's not an experienced hardcore bike rider?
Yeah, look, I always say, if you ride a bike regularly, it can be a city bike, can be a road bike, gravel, mountain bike. You can do any of the tour, because if you do it self-guided, I will plan the terrain that is for you. And if you do a guided tour anyway, you have a guide who selects the trails. And on our tour, it was 10 of us with John and Alice and the others, and the level was it was different. So of course, like 10 people are never going to have the same level. That's why it's not only me as a guide, but it was also my brother Uroš, because 10 people, like I said, it requires 2 guides. So on some of the days we could split, so the more challenging group can do something extra, and the others could turn around or do like a easier loop.
How do people find our away tours? HOURAWAY.
Word of mouth, I would say it was the strongest so far, because I started 8 years ago. I was 25, but now it's Google search. Also, the reviews are there, so people can read the reviews and really see what it's all about. To be honest, I'm happy with how it's going, and I don't want to grow too fast. There's no big hotels. We have like small local accommodations, boutique hotels with maybe 10 rooms that accepts 20, 25 people max. And yeah, that's it.
Right. Well, John and Alice, you guys have done a lot of these kinds of tours, bike and barge tours, and can you give us a last word on riding in Slovenia and riding with Nejc and all of that?
On all the tours we've been on, we've never had so much luck, at least from our perspective, luck in terms of finding beautiful roads with no traffic and roads that literally would be impossible to find without being guided.
Right.
Never had local guides, really. And we've gone with a lot of companies that have people from Europe, but not the region or necessarily the country doing the tour. And the guides are really wonderful on the other trips. However, they don't know the back roads and the kind of places to take us if we want a different experience.
Right.
So the local part was pretty fantastic. Not only did Nejc and his brother know the back roads, they know the history of the country, they know the people. So that whole part of it was pretty different.
Yeah, it just sounds like a wonderful trip. Nejc Peternelj of Our Away Tours in Slovenia. Thanks for babysitting my brother and his wife.
Yes.
But also thanks for coming on Bike Talk.
Well, first of all, thanks for John and Alice to trust me. It's been always a pleasure to have wonderful people and show them your own country. And Taylor, thank you so much that I can maybe talk about this little country called Slovenia to your audience, to the other side of the world. And if any of your listeners are want to know more about it, there's also one webinar I have online. They can also reach out to email, and I'm always happy to help because I think the country is very bike friendly, and if you are cycling any type of bike, it is a place to visit, it's a place to discover and place to be right now.
Perfect. Well, Nejc, thanks a lot. John, Alice, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Nice to
Taylor.
see you.
Thanks, Nejc. Good
Thank
seeing you.
you.
Bye.
So that was Our Away Tours in Slovenia, Our Houraway. Pretty interesting, I thought.
Yeah, we don't talk enough about Slovenia. Would they have the most forest of any country in Europe?
Yeah, they were saying that, yeah. And he was also talking about how the country hasn't been hit yet by the big tourist waves that is going on in Europe.
Well, let's talk about a city in western Massachusetts if you want to visit a city that's not too blown
Crowded.
up by tourists. Yeah. Holyoke. It's near me, where I live. It's the birthplace of volleyball.
Oh.
It's got a lot of things. That's just sort of one that stands out. It's got about 40,000 residents, and they have some projects in the works to improve biking and walking. And
Great.
They just completed a comprehensive plan. And the third annual mayoral bike ride was October 8th. Kristen Sykes, who's the chair of the Holyoke Bike Ped Council, interviewed the mayor on the ride, Mayor Joshua Garcia, about their plans.
Okay, ready. I'm here with Holyoke Mayor Joshua Garcia. Joshua, what were you up to today?
Well, we went biking around the city. That's what I've been up to.
Okay.
With all my friends and neighbors.
Awesome. And this is your third time doing the ride.
Oh my God, has it been? Is this the third year?
This is our third annual
This
mayoral
is the
bike
third
ride.
one. You're
I
right.
know. Time flies when you're having fun.
Oh, wow. Oh my God.
Yeah. So tell me about why it's important for you to go on this ride.
Well, specifically for me, the thing is I don't ride bike every single day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a traditional biker, so I don't get to see how people that do ride bikes, how they move around in the city.
Yeah.
And when my Bike Ped Committee organizes this annual event, it's a great opportunity for me to just kind of, go up and down our streets, take a tour on a bike with other bikers, and get to experience what biking is like in Holyoke, so that as we decision makers continue to go forward with developing, improving our infrastructure, that we're keeping it in mind from our experiences, right? And I think there's no better way to get, experience, and understand unless you go out for yourself and see. It certainly does give me perspective.
Tell me about some of the cool projects that are going to be coming up high in Maple, and there's the new comprehensive plan.
Coming spring, we have the reconstruction of Race to Cabot all the way down to Willimantic Bridge. Mobility safety is the whole complete street model. Streets, intersections, bike lanes, curb appeal, the trees, the tree pits. In 2029, 2030, you'll see the full reconstruction of the entire length of High and Maple. Again, complete streets, all about mobility safety. Not only is it going to improve the look and feel downtown, but also make sure that how people get around, that they're safe mobilizing our city, whether if you're walking or you're biking or you're on a wheelchair. By 2027, it's our first roundabout on West Franklin, Resnick Beach area. Again, improving Edison is one of the highest crash points in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and we'll see some improvements there, including how people are getting through on bikes. What I learned today was we have our tree streets that run parallel to High and Maple, one-ways. I was already thinking as I was hearing from Mr. Price, like, hey, this could be Bike Boulevard, right? And I'm thinking, it's not a terrible idea to somehow piggyback on our High and Maple and do these parallel streets on mobility safety. Again, it's all resources, but with the right planning, you get what you plan for.
Yeah.
And things like this, again, helps kind of set the tone and the expectation so that, again, leaders, we're listening to our community and we're doing what we can to execute what people want.
Holyoke has a pretty good amount of people who don't have cars. I think it's over 20%
right.
that are walking and biking. So even more so, we want to make sure that we have infrastructure for people,
you're
right?
Absolutely right. And when we did the High and Maple, we're in this kind of exploratory phase, trying to understand the data downtown, biking, the number of vehicles that are crossing through, where are the crash points. When the data was presented, quickly I realized how much people bike down High and Maple. They showed this heat map and showed how people are moving around and what modes of transportation they're using. We got a lot of people that bike downtown. When we're in our cars getting to point A to point B, we don't pay attention to those things, right? And so here I am now in this seat. You kind of feel like this grand architect as we continue to plan for the future of our city, infrastructure improvements. How do we make sure that we're incorporating intentionally things that I might not be used to or that I might not see immediately, but looking at the data and saying, oh, wow, we have a community here that bikes. We need to improve bike safety.
And I know that when they improve infrastructure for people who are walking and biking, it also makes it safer for cars because they know what to expect. If there's a protected bike lane, it separates the cars from the bikers. And when you have more people biking and walking, then cars get more used to people walking and biking.
We're also used to a certain culture. One of the things that I've been learning, just getting to work with the experts in several different projects, there's this idea that traffic lights improves safety when all it really does is manage traffic. Really, there's traffic lights in an area where they're not warranted and actually makes it more unsafe because, folks are speeding up to catch the yellow before it turns red, right? And in that effort, can there be somebody coming around a parked car, they don't see, they hit, accidents happen, versus, you put the bike safety measures, the lines, the bump outs, speed management, that intentionally and purposely slows down drivers. You have to pay attention more, rather than the traditional method where it causes people to potentially not pay attention or even speed up, then accidents happen. And so there's a whole different way. Cities everywhere, especially more innovative cities, are investing in their downtown to improve mobility safety. And I go around and I see what's going on. You look at the data and see these improvements. And those are the things I want to make sure that we adopt here so that we're creating a friendly community for everyone, whether you're riding a bus, you're riding a bike, you're walking, you're on a wheelchair.
Awesome.
You're pushing a baby cart. Folks are able to feel safe when they're walking around or, however they're mobilizing. And people in vehicles, right? We're not trying to eliminate the car culture, but instead look through a whole different lens that we might not be used to. It's a bit of growing pains for a lot of people because we're not used to it.
Right.
But when it's here and you actually experience it, you're like, wow, why didn't we do this a long time ago?
Exactly.
This is so much better.
Yeah.
And, the icing on the cake of all of that is the look and feel. It looks better. It feels safer. There's this thought, I get feedback, oh, Mayor, I don't know if I feel comfortable walking a block away to get to my destination because safety, right? The lighting and maybe blight makes you feel unsafe. So, we want to improve the deteriorated infrastructure, address issues around blight, improve the lighting, make it more friendly to the eye, the infrastructure, the wayfinding. Those things have an impact to what's perceived as not safe. So it's all connected. It's very complicated, but I'm committed. Eyes are on the prize here, working together with the team and continuing to get as close as we can to hitting our targets. So.
Right. And you're not the average mayor in that you have a background in planning. So you understand
the interesting
this a lot more than probably the average mayor, right?
Well, so I'm not a planner. But yes, I do have a background in planning because I've worked with them. When I graduated with my MPA, I worked at the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. I was a municipal services manager working with local governments on how to improve services, address inefficiencies, accomplish economies of scale through how they're delivering services. And I'm working together with my colleagues who are actual planners. It's all connected.
Right.
And city leaders, managers, mayors, councilors, people who are the decision makers, it is beneficial to have had grown in that environment to understand how the system needs to work together.
Yeah.
And it's a system that relies heavily on cooperation because government's not designed so that one person's in total power and control. It's a bottom-up institution. And when you get a manager or a mayor, if you don't understand that concept, your job is going to be difficult. You'll get slower progress, and you won't really get to adequately meet the needs of the community to the greatest extent possible. Because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of movement, a lot of different stakeholders involved, and you got to know how to navigate that, leverage the different resources available because resources are scarce. They're very limited, so you got to be creative. Navigate all of that and say, okay, how do I take this as it exists and make it work? And what do? You do things like mayoral bike rides.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and we had a couple of city council members and a couple of prospective city council members, so they get that great experience when they're sitting in city council too.
Think about it that way. But yes, the councilors got to get busy. Get on a trash truck with the DPW. Go on a ride along with the police department. Go on a call with the fire department. Those hands-on experiences, they're eye-opening because again, we're also caught up in our tunnel vision in our own private lives. We jump in our car, we get from point A to point B. We really don't get to see everything. We don't get to connect. We don't get to experience. But we're in this important role to make decisions of people. And if we're not out there engaging and experiencing, there's missed opportunity. I don't like to believe that people run for positions to purposely break things and screw things up. It's just, obviously like anything else, whether if you're a parent, right, or an educator, or if you're not in that environment, it's hard to be effective. That's a recommendation to any counselor that's listening to this, is get out there and connect with the staff and the people and try to understand the services and get out of your own perspective and lens, and that will make your world a whole lot easier when trying to prioritize and make important decisions on priorities. So
awesome. Thank you.
I love it when the mayors of cities are on the rides in their city, because then they really get to see what it's like to be on a bike riding on the streets, even if the streets are closed, because it's or I should say open, even if the streets are open for bikes and everybody else.
And that's what the mayor said, that, his recommendation to any city councilor is to get out there, to go out and meet people. Because if you're just in your office, you're not really going to be able to help people because you don't understand. Garcia also said it's a bottom-up approach. It's kind of the opposite of what we talked about last week with Colin Parent, whose report, The Powerless Broker, was about how fewer parties involved is better.
Wasn't it President Roosevelt, who said at one point, and I forgot what it was about, but he said, "I agree with you completely. Now make me do it," meaning that the bottom-up approach gets people fired up for safe streets and bicycle infrastructure. But when you actually then give the go-ahead to implement those projects, the fewer people that are involved in the implementation, I think that's a little bit what Colin was saying, helps the process.
Yeah. And then, all right.
You're not buying that?
I'm going all over the place in my head on that. It's complicated.
Yeah. But I think that's kind of what he was saying. And I think that's what Roosevelt was saying, when he's saying, make me do it. Now create the need for whatever it was that he was talking about, and I'll do it. But you have to create the need.
Good show.
Absolutely. We want to thank our guests, Diane Alisa, Melissa Bruntlett, Nejc Peternelj, my brother John Nichols, his wife Alice, Our Away Tours, Kristen Sykes, and Mayor Joshua Garcia, and all of our regulars, Julie Richard, Kevin Burton, Charlie Lighthizer, Amy Ziering, Lindsay Sturman, Stacy Randecker, and Josh Haglund.
And now all we need is a quote.
Is that it? That's all we need?
Pretty much.
A bicycle is a mobile device that charges you. Ba-dum-bump.
Yeah, well, we were talking about dynamos and charging your phone from your bike.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, I wonder if you could charge your air compressor on your Dynamo hub.
Wow. Now you got my head spinning.
That would be cool.
Thanks, Taylor.
Ride safe.
This episode of Bike Talk is sponsored by the law offices of Pocras and De Los Reyes, with offices in Los Angeles and Bakersfield and serving all of Southern California.
Bike Talk is a project of CRSP and the Los Angeles Eco-Village Institute.
And that was Bike Talk. If you have a story, a tip, or a topic, head over to biketalk.org and send us a message. Talk again next week.
Get on your bike, sit on the seat, put your feet on the pedal, and run all around, run all around. Get on your bike, sit on the seat, put your feet on the pedal, and run all around, run all around. Get that car out of my way, I wanna ride my bike today. It keeps me fit, gets me there, I won't go stinking up the air. Leave behind the daily grind, let your mind unwind. If it's life, pretend to life, better get yourself a bike. Get yourself a bike. Oh, 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 get yourself a bike.